Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich, who's from jbiztechvalley.com and Statewide News. We have a very interesting guest. You last say very interesting. I'll put super on Congressman Tonko of Bethlehem. Of course, we're in Bethlehem TV, but the whole Capital District area. Congressman, welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you, Rabbi Simon, and thank you, Mark. It's great to join both of you.
Well, it's great to see you here. This is very special. I've known you for a couple of decades now.
Yeah, I've been around for a while.
And, you know, you were in the Assembly for many years, and energy is your field of expertise, and energy is what you seem to emote and embody in your in how ubiquitous you are in this district.
Yeah, it's a fun district to represent. I have to tell you, it's kind of energizing to have new territory. You know, you miss the old portions that were taken off of the 21st Congressional District, the Schoharie County, Fulton County, Montgomery County portions. But now new territory is added in Saratoga County, and it's a challenge to get out there and just meet new constituents, about 100,000 large.
There's a large Jewish community in Saratoga County.
Yes, there is throughout the Congressional District. So it's a fun area to represent, and the synagogues keep me busy.
Okay.
And they have many events, and I've had some of the rabbis notice when I'm there 3-4 times a weekend, and they wonder what's happening. So.
Well,
you're better than some Jews. That's how you make an honorary Jewish person over here.
I don't want to be the measuring stick.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here on the show. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
You grew up in Amsterdam.
Right.
And your mom, she still lives?
My mom and dad still live in Amsterdam,
wow.
And you know, it was a great community to grow up in. It's a mill town, as we all know, and you know, struggling to re-identify its economy, but you know, it was a neighborly town where everybody knew each other, and as a mill town, everyone was driving for that. You know, climb up the economic ladder for their children. You know, offering all sorts of help, fighting for good schools and programs that would nurture the young. So it was, you know, not a complaint from me. It was a wonderful place to call home and to grow. Yes, yes.
Yeah, you're still in the same place that you grew up in.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Well, that's
and many of the people I knew when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as they say, are still around, believe it or not. So there's...
Now, there must be longevity in your family. I mean, you're 64.
Four. My parents are both 92, married for 66 years. Wow. And, yeah, I've had great-grandparents who have made it to post-100.
Okay.
And
well, we could see you in Congress for quite a couple years.
You'll be a senior member over here.
Yeah. See, there's a way to build seniority, I guess.
But you know, I know that you're on the the business committee, and you know, it's interesting. Again, I'm not a businessman; I'm a rabbi. But my wife comes from Boston. I know there was like textiles, and they just reinvented themselves with computers and high tech. And a little bit, you see that Albany. I mean, that's where the area we're in, the Nanotech, because the manufacturing jobs are, like you say, mill towns, and these different factories are not there anymore.
I think what you're citing, Rabbi, is the fact that it's transitioning to advanced manufacturing, which is precision orientation. Very pricey outlay in the beginning. That's where a lot of the partnership, public-private partnership here has worked so well with labs that have been established at Nanotech, and where startups, incubators are getting assistance with a number of these efforts. And you know, the infrastructure investments, ranging from physical infrastructure to capital infrastructure to human infrastructure, have now allowed for a clustering to take hold. So much so that you know, Brookings Institute has cited us as one of the hottest properties out there in the country, as a hub, a region for green-collar energy job growth. Forbes magazine has done likewise. The publications galore that have cited us either in the top 5 or the top in terms of jobs that have been created in that regard. So I see the Mohawk Valley, that's home and hometown for me, to grow into the next high-tech valley. We have investments now from the state of New York in Nanotech in Utica, and we run as far east as Rensselaer County this investment into Saratoga County, I can very well envision that we will have in a decade, the next decade, see the growth along the axis that runs east-west because of the saturation going north-south. And without any sense of exaggeration, I think the sense of optimism here is justified and beginning to document itself, which is good.
Now, while the state has given Nanotech seed money going back to the Mario Cuomo years,
Right.
how much has Congress, what is Congress's financial input has been?
Well, there are a number of things that this president has invested in.
Well, he came to Albany Nanotech.
Well, and it's
yeah,
interesting, he's come here now 3 times.
Yeah.
First to Hudson Valley,
Right.
then to GE, and then to Nanotech.
Right.
And I think the 3 visits are proof positive that he likes what's going on here, and he showcases it because it validates his vision for the economy that he sees coast to coast.
Okay. What about the financial?
The financial pieces, he has invested in an NMI initiative, the National Manufacturing Institute initiative, which is lending itself federal dollars toward communities, consortiums that are developed. And we're, I think, in the running right now with a great application that has been pursued by a number of entities in this region, ranging from RPI and GE and IBM and Nanotech, all putting together this consortium appeal
Right.
for application for this federal funding, which will
How much?
I believe it'll be about 70 million in
billion? Would it
70
be?
million
Million.
involved in
Okay.
in the initial stages.
Yeah.
But then that is like planting the seed
Right.
Yeah, it
for
snowballs.
further clustering to go, and it requires a partnership. And our partnership is extending beyond that, well beyond that 70 million.
As a congressman, so that's kind of your part also. Do you feel that's your role to give it a little bit of a push
Well-
from the back or something to
Well,
grease
it's
up the wheels or
well,
something?
a number of roles there to advance public policy that will reinforce the president's vision and to further complement it. I think it's also an effort to secure in the budget the dollars that he has requested. He envisions at least 15 of these centers. And what they do is take a laser-sharp focus onto very specific technology. In this case, we would be talking about the interconnection of renewables to the grid, or the ability to address electric vehicles with more resilience. There are these bits of technology that need to accompany our walk forward with advanced manufacturing. He wants us to be ahead of the curve and put together this really laser-sharp focus on a specific order of technology that has applicability across many spectra out there that will make things happen.
And what about the Israeli component
Well,
with Nanotech?
Yeah, that's an interesting partnership. They're thinking that could translate into some $3 billion worth of stimulus that will come. Basically, it's a partnership between Nanotech and the Israeli Industry Research and Development Network. That network will be able to utilize the labs at Nanotech. They'll get to better understand and partner with the many programs at the college and be able to share that growth with Israel. Now, I think that's just layering atop some of the other activities that we've known since the 70s, where the BIRD program, the Binational Research and Development Program, has taken us and taken Israel into a great realm of success. In fact, I think it's easily documented that Israel has the highest per capita population of scientists. And the work that they've done with electric vehicles, the charging stations, the infrastructure for that, the work they've done with renewables, all of that, really well respected and used as a model out there, a role model status for the country, for others to look at. I think that's a tremendous accomplishment, and perhaps the propensity to be energy independent, surrounded by these nations that are supplying great amounts of oil around the world. that propensity has driven Israel, I think, along with this partnership. And we have also taken their Science Foundation monies, which have been significant also, and given them an energy spin, which has allowed for the discussions on and the investments in renewables and in cutting-edge technology, in innovation. So I think the two countries have a very strong bond, not only in work that's being done, but in the goals, in the goal setting. And that is to be energy independent, to be able to produce jobs through innovative concepts that both nations are inspiring, that allow us to be more resourceful with the energy supplies that we have, not only in terms of efficiency when we're generating these energy supplies, but efficiency when we're transmitting the electrons, and efficiency when we're utilizing the resources. So across the board, it's cutting edge, and it translates into tremendous job growth. And it's why I get very upset when we've had discussions in Washington where through sequestration or through just the advancement of policy on the floor outside the budget, we're looking at dumbing down. We're asked to accept this notion of dumbing down research, our R&D component, education, higher ed. Nothing could be worse than right now in this moment where we and Israel are in an international race with dozens of nations for an innovation economy, a clean energy economy. And I liken it to the 60s when I was a kid and watched as a president, rather youthful president, appealed to this nation. And in bipartisan, multi-partisan measure, people came forward. And they reinforced this notion because we had just come back from a Sputnik moment where we dusted off our backside. And that loss, in retrospect, was a good thing for us. It drove the passion that we needed to stake the flag, the American flag, on the moon. And it's a similar situation now. A youthful president saying, do you want to win this race or not?
Have you been to Israel?
I have not.
You have not?
I have
not.
I
have not either.
So you take
we
a
should
group tour? Well, let's start a group
So we
tour.
should go
There you
sometime.
go. Look at this. We're going to get a group package.
That's right. I wanted to, they say that if someone wants to run for president, they have to go to the three I's, Israel, Italy, and Ireland. But I guess India is now a fourth eye in that. But anyway, we'll go beyond that.
I don't think I said I was running for president.
No, you didn't. No, but I'm just.
All right.
Who knows?
I digress.
Well, thank you for the thought that you think I could.
I wanted to say, your interest in the energy movement has not been recent.
No,
I mean,
no.
you were a member of the Public Service Commission in New York State before you became an assemblyman.
Yeah, that's a language in and of itself. Tariff and rate, lingo, nomenclature is a science in and of itself that really prepared me well for my consumer orientation of the job. But you're right, this energy drive goes way, way back to the 70s when I worked in the Department of Public Service as an engineer in the communications division. But beyond that, I had spoken to a number of folks in the leadership going back to the days of Saul Weprin as speaker, and then certainly Shelley Silver, who was tremendously supportive of our work as an energy committee in the House and gave us great latitude. But I had said to the leaders in the Assembly through the years that there was an issue, energy, that was not being addressed, and it's a commodity that's essential. It speaks to the profitability and the productivity of business, and it speaks to the daily needs of a household. And it impacts the household budget. In poor households, an extraordinary amount of the percent of their budget is energy costs, and many have to choose between eating or pharmaceutical needs or medical needs or energy and heating their home. And we see it now. We see it today with attacks on weatherization programs, heat programs. It's
and
unjust.
HEAP is being cut.
Yeah. I mean, these are fights that you still take and battle for in Washington. And, the innovation, the sense of transformation that could be part of this country's energy agenda goes back decades, and I was proud to be there with that.
Well, you also spent a brief time as the chairman, CEO of the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA.
Right.
And that was
Correct.
about a year or so?
Yeah, I was there as I left the assembly. I was approached by the board at the urging of Governor Spitzer, and really enjoyed that role because they're consummate professionals at NYSERDA,
Yeah.
and they deal with the stewardship of the fees that go toward renewables, the renewable portfolio
Right.
standards that are established, and networking with a lot of R&D.
Was it a tough decision?
It was. It was
take-
very difficult.
to take that place that you really liked and say, I'm going to leave this to run for Congress?
It was tremendously difficult, and I will tell you that I looked at it from every angle, and the litmus test for me has always been, where can I do the most good?
Well, you also like
Where-
people.
I
You're
do.
also a people person.
Yeah.
And you like to interact with people. I mean, you are just out there tremendous numbers of times, more than I could say for anyone else. And it's not like you'll do it. You'll be out there for whether it's 2 people, 10 people, or hundreds of people. It won't matter to you, which is something I found fascinating.
Well, I
because
think the
you
job, well, I thank you for that compliment, Mark, but, I think the job begins and ends with a respect factor.
Right.
And when you take these jobs, you need to ultimately, you sacrifice, but the sacrifice is because you need to show the respect toward people that have placed their trust in you, and if they voted for you or not, it doesn't matter. They have to be approached with its utmost amount of respect.
Do you find the human perspective in Congress a bit of an issue for you? Is it less impersonal, more partisan, and they don't look at you as an individual?
No, I find that the personal relationships are there, and they're plentiful because it's a bigger house. It's 435 people versus 150, and you're getting the joy of the job.
In the 150
right,
in the
the
assembly.
right.
Okay.
But the joy of the job is you're meeting people from every region of the country, and in this job, or just in life in general, it's nice to be stretched and know more about people and what drives them.
So who have you been most
close with?
Yeah.
Oh, God, there's a range of people. There's Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut. There's Joe Courtney from Connecticut. There's Jan Stokowski from Illinois.
Is there bipartisan? I mean, do you talk to the Republican, congressmen?
Oh,
you deal with them? Are you
I do.
friends with them?
Well, he's got to
You know,
go with
I
Chris
think-
Gibson, so at least
Yeah, well,
that.
you have that bipartisan relationship certainly with your delegation, and we have Peter King, we have Chris
Mike.
Gibson, we have
Michael Grimm?
Michael Grimm, we have Richard Hanna,
You don't have many Republicans from the New York delegation.
Well, but more than they
Peter
have
King.
had. There are a few more than they've had.
Right.
And then, of course, I think what is really pronounced, I think, is the amount of latitude given to the committees. So it's almost like a collegial setting where you have a major and you get to know those people in that major. So I'm on Energy and Commerce, and so I'll network with the 24 Democrats on the committee and the many more Republicans on the committee, and so you have that partnership. I am ranker on the Environment and Economy subcommittee that reports to Energy and Commerce.
Oh, wow.
So Representative John Shimkus from Illinois is a Republican that I'll routinely meet with and work with. So throughout my career, I've tried to make it a bipartisan experience so that you can get things done. My first year in Congress, because we had reached out across the aisle to some Republicans, we were able to get legislation done. When we did our truckers bill, we reached out to Republicans to get that done. So, I think it's important for us in this day and age to try and establish that bipartisan spirit, because there's enough breaking that down. And in fact, probably the biggest tug of war right now in Washington is within the majority caucus, where Republicans are having tug of war with fellow Republicans, where people will say, I ran against the establishment. And so if that's your approach to the job, that's going to carry itself into the caucus. And so you're going to have traditional, I guess, is the label to put on it, versus non-establishment. Some will call it Tea Party versus moderate. We all get labeled in this business.
How are you labeled?
I'm hopefully labeled as open-minded and progressive, but who knows?
Okay.
People have...
That would be what you'd like to be labeled.
I think so.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
We'll label you that.
Labels, labels.
Labels, right? Do you have now? Is it tough traveling between Washington and all the counties within your district? I mean, it seems like it would be a schlep for me to be going back and forth like this, but you must really enjoy it.
I think the pace, you establish the pace of the job your first term. You know it obviously going into it, but until you really live it, it doesn't become as real. But I think through the first term, I was able to establish a pace. Probably the downside for me was being in an assembly district, which is a fifth of a congressional district,
Sure.
and I tried to be omnipresent.
Yes.
And so that driving force is still within me. But again, it goes back to the respect factor, to just show people you care, and care enough to want to be with
Well,
them.
how does this impact your personal life and what you do?
What personal life?
Okay.
Again, you make decisions, and I'm kind of driven by the service side of the job, and so the trek 400 miles south to Washington and back is something you get used to.
Then everyone in the district is your family.
Exactly.
Is that
it?
it?
I have
Okay.
like 710,000 family members.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how many people you represent, 700,000?
Yeah, 711 or so, I think
Yeah.
it is, 1,000. But, the ping-ponging from Washington to the district, I try to do every weekend.
Yes.
I don't want to stay away from the district. I want people to know what's going on. I want to hear their response to that. We don't always agree, but I think, I learn from those visits. I hope they learn about what drives me. And I think as important as the yes or no that you cast on a vote is how you got there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, the dialogue that we need to have in government isn't always there because we live fast-paced today. We have a microwave mindset,
Very good.
and I really think that, when we look back as students of history, we'll acknowledge that our framers of our government intentionally had many checks and balances. It was designed to be slow and check
Right.
things out. And today we're in microwave. I mean, you have a good idea in Albany, you announce it. By the time you get to Washington, one press of a button could defeat that measure just through the blogosphere.
I always feel that, that the American society should learn from Judaism, which just very simply is just that every day in the synagogue, and I say you're almost an honorary Jewish person, you've been in synagogue so much, but you read the Bible once a little bit and go through it once a week, so you go through the whole year. And it just, even I see people or even kids, and I talk to them, well, that law, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a American history major, but I know basically, American law because we live in a country, and I always say to people, I appreciate America more than anybody. They say, well, with a beard, you don't look like your typical American guy. I says, yeah, but I know what Jewish people have gone through throughout the years, and I appreciate living in the United States, I think, more than most people do, because they could be, they can live in England also, a lot of people, and they could be happy, but, in France and Poland and Russia, and, came here to be good. But just to review the law, that's what I'm saying. That's I see so beautiful in Judaism. It's not like, oh, well, I learned it when I was a kid, and 50 years later, how are you supposed to remember it? Just every year to remember it. That's why people don't vote. I'm, always appalled at the number of percentage of people appalled, or even who know the Constitution or the amendment. This is your basic rights, and why aren't you up for, to say, give a test to a new immigrant, but a citizen, in 8th grade, you're done and learning.
Knowing the issues, knowing where candidates stand, that's our awesome responsibility as citizens of a democracy. But to your earlier point, too, there is every bit of opportunity for us to be a mesh. I mean, to take our skills, our gifts that are endowed within us, and to share them for the betterment of community, which is a tenet of your faith, my faith. You have ample, abundant opportunity to do good and to do well in this country. And I try to do both. I try to do good and try to do well by the people that have elected me, and the building a better world, right, with the Tikkun
Olam.
Yeah, Tikkun Olam is absolutely essential.
Yeah.
For us to survive as a nation. If we skip that opportunity to not build a better world, shame on us, because each of us has different gifts, and that's the whole quality of life, the essence of life, to pour yourself out. Is what
I think
I've
the
been
beauty
taught.
of America, that's really what America is. They gave a free hand to as much as you can. It's not noblemen, and you're privileged. You can be poor. You can, you don't have to be in a class. The sky's the limit. And that's the beauty, like you say.
Absolutely.
When you look back on
Few more minutes.
where New York State is right now, as opposed to when you were in the Assembly, when you go to Congress, are you proud of where New York State is, or do you hear things from people of other states that say, "Oh my God, your Assembly is so corrupt," or there's something where 50 assemblymen have been, or 30 assemblymen have been escorted out over the years in handcuffs, and
Those headlines, Mark, will grab people's attention. You might hear that. You might hear things about different states where things happened, and people will grab the headlines and talk about it for whatever day's worth of ether. And but I will tell you that from the moment I entered into Congress till today, a number of colleagues come up to me and saying, "What did New York do on this?
okay,
What is New York thinking on this?" They see us as a leader,
okay,
which is kind of interesting because we'll get down on ourselves at times, and and not understand sometimes the value that we have evidently built within our boundaries as a state. And people will many times ask me about what New York did with this. So it tells us we're already ahead of the curve,
right.
and they want to know. They respect our choices and our goals, and our values. So,
And we respect you.
well, thank you very much.
It's a mutual respect.
Well, thank
There
you.
you go.
And representing a region like the Capital District of New York is such a thrill because there's a can-do spirit here. I think it goes back to our donor days as the geography to the Erie Canal, where people came with tools in hand and said, "How do we make it work?"
Right.
Go into the mills, come up with ingenious ideas that affected product delivery, and built the Industrial Revolution and sparked the westward movement. So,
I wanna
we
hear
have that
some
pioneer
housing
spirit. It's our
music in the
DNA.
background
Yeah.
here.
It's telling us the time is done. Well, it's been a
another minute. Listen, you're doing great work, Congressman.
Thank
We
you.
know you're from the Assembly. Good thing that we're in Albany, so we can see all the Assembly people here, and we're always there for different, like with Speaker Silver, with the Hanukkah parties, Purim parties, Passover. We're always there, and we've seen you grow, and just giving you our blessing that you can keep on growing, representing New York and really representing the entire United States. Like you say, it's a beautiful mission to be the leader of the world. So,
All right. Well, thank you. I enjoy the assignment. I enjoy the job. I love the work. And the people interaction, as Mark highlighted. So it's great to be with you, and let's work towards worldwide shalom.
Okay.
excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.